Hello and welcome to another episode of the programming course. I believe it's 11th or maybe 12th. I don't know. I kind of lost the track and I've been away for like 2 weeks. This episode might get a bit longer than usual because I'm going to explain a bunch of matters here. Uh, but don't worry, is buckle up, and as always, let's begin. So far we have, I believe, three classes of a student, teacher, and person. Okay, uh, this combination kind of represents a situation of a school. So let's add classrooms and the grades of any student here to kind of can represent what is going on in a student in a school. So first of all, I'm gonna, you know, for the classroom, I'm not going to define another super class called place and uh, inherit the classroom from the place. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just going to use, define everything directly into the classroom. Oh, oops, my keyboard was. So for the class, I cannot use class because the class is a reserved keyword. So instead, I'm going with class with the uppercase C or simply classroom to just, make things going. So a classroom, what does it have? It might have a name of the type of a string. Yeah, that's colon. You could just either define the type by colon or initiate the normal value with the empty string or whatever. So both of them works. So you know at the previous episodes I have used this type, and this in this episode I'm going to use just the data type declaration. They are kind of the same, but not the same exactly, but with the constructor and setters, we usually do not let them be as the initialized as they are. We are going to override their value, so don't worry about that. We just want to represent what type is the name, which in this case is a string. So basically, let's assume what a classroom has. Well, the name, we have just mentioned it, and we have a list of students. So students, which is of the type of list. So basically, for the representing the grade of the students, I'm going to couple them together. But for coupling, we have a mechanism in Python which called Tuples. We haven't discussed that data type yet, but it's out of the box in the Python. It comes with the Python, and actually it's quite easy to use. Let's open the console here. So clear everything. Python 3. Yeah, I've a Python. My microphone is on. Okay. It just tries to type whatever I'm saying. So, what? Yeah, I was talking about the tuples, like tuple. It's like that, and as you can see, it comes with the parentheses. So the empty parentheses kind of represents the tuple. So you can tuple a bunch of numbers together, or maybe a string in the middle. Sorry. Or even boolean, whatever. It's a tuple. So a tuple is just a tuple. I don't know how to say it. And a small collection of the data which every element could be you know their type are not dependent together. So the first element in this case is integer, second is integer, but the third element is a string, and the fifth element is boolean here. They are not homogeneous. They are they could be different from each other. So let's empty this out. Define a variable called a, whatever it is, and I'm going to assume this is going to be represented of this student's list. So the first element of the tuple I want to be the student. So instead of using the person class here, I'm just going to say it's Joe, whatever it is. And the second tuple is going to be the Joe's grade in that class. So imagine that's not high school or college or university. That's like elementary school. In an elementary school, all the kids has only one teacher. So only one teacher for any given class and one grade for any given class. So that's kind of gonna make sense. We could just expand this phenomenon and give any students in the class a list of the grades, but I'm not gonna do that in this episode. Let's begin with this tuple going here. So the Joe's grade was, for example, 17. So we have A here. The A value is a tuple which the first element is the name of the student and the second element is the grade. So if I want to access the first element, I can just use indexes as the lists, and I can access any value in the tuple. And of course, if I go beyond that range, it's gonna throw an error, which is the tuple index out of the range. So I just wanted to introduce you to the tuples, which I believe I did. And yeah, so I had the students, which is a list, but that is a list of tuples. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to implement that later. So what else does a classroom have? Maybe a teacher. So a teacher of type teacher. But as you can see, we have an error here which says the teacher is not defined, but we have the teacher class here. So in the eyes of the Python, it's going to read the code. It says, okay, we have a class called classroom. So it has two properties. Oh, what is that? I cannot understand yet. He's right, because we haven't defined the teacher yet. Teacher has been defined in the line 24, but this classroom is defined at the line number 1. So all we need to do is just move this class down. So the teacher has now been defined before the classroom. So these kind of chains of dependency are matters in the Python, but in the most of the object-oriented programming languages such as Java or PHP, the order of definition doesn't actually matter. So but in Python actually it does matter. So as the indents matters, and at the almost every other language it doesn't matter. So we have the teacher, which is teacher. Let's define the constructor. That's in itself, whatever. For the starts, I'm gonna ask for the name of the class, list of, just teacher. which is none, by the way, at the beginning. Self name is name, and self teacher would be teacher. No, teacher. That's come on, teacher. Yeah, that's it. Sorry about the mess. What if for the students? I'm gonna let's start that with an empty list and just start appending it. So for add student, I'm gonna ask in student, which cannot be empty, and the grade. But some of the students might don't have any grade, so let's come with a convention which says -1 equals to, we don't have any grade yet, or we can just say none. That's a convention actually. So the self parameter, I just forgot about that, sorry. So self dot students append that student and grade. But as you can see, we have appended two elements in a list, so they are not toppling up. We have to kind of throw them in a tuple and add the tuple to the list. So all we had to do is just add the parentheses. So this inner parenthesis means a tuple. We can just mention it's a tuple, but as the Python is smart enough to understand that the empty parentheses actually are tuples, it just kind of doesn't need the name of the tuple function behind that. It just sees the parentheses and say, oh, that looks like tuple, so that's a tuple. And another function for get a students, which only needs itself and returns self students. So that's actually classroom. And yeah, let's just add something to it. So we might have a student and we're gonna read it. We doesn't have to print it. We're gonna add another student, read it, a teacher. Does the teacher have this read function? Yes. So the read must be defined at the yeah. That's at the person level. So that's the super class. That's the super class. I kind of forgot the name. So after that we have one teacher and two students. We're gonna need a classroom. So the classroom, you can just ignore this here. So the classroom is classroom. All we have to do is just whatever, first grade, and the teacher is T1. So classroom, add a student S1 with a grade of what the grade should be. Let's say 17 again. And the classroom add a student S2 without any grade yet. So, and for the last part, I'm going to print that the classroom of the students. So let's see what is going on. So it's going to ask the first student's name. I'm going with the Joe, and age 8. Actually Joe is 8 years old, and the grade is, oh god, I made a mistake. So for adding the student, we don't need the grade yet because the student has the grade itself. You know what? Let's add the grade. It doesn't actually matter. Or if you want to, doesn't have that, the student doesn't need the grade. So let's comment this. So the name Joe, 8 years old, and another name like Sarah. I don't know if Sarah has H or not. In Persian, Sarah doesn't have an H, but I believe in English Sarah has H. So the age of Sarah is actually 7. Again, name. Oh, for the teacher. Teacher is like Mr. White. Walter White. And 45. Salary? How about 100,000? Oh, that's a million. 100,000. So, yeah, after printing, as you can see, we have the object addresses. It says there's an object of a student at this address. Those are only memory addresses. So if I dump my laptop's memory at those addresses, I can find those objects, but I'm not going to look for them actually. So let's print them in the other effect. So let's say the classroom's teacher, which is a teacher, we can say or we can use fs3. That's formatable string. I believe we have discussed this fs3 thing. So the teacher of the classroom name is whatever it is. It has len of classroom that get a student. It has students, maybe S. And for the list of them, let's see, for any student in classroom that get students, print a student stu that get that come on, stu that name. I don't know, the name is actually, yeah, it directly can be accessed. So is a member of the class with the grade of oh, stu is actually a tuple. So yeah, the first element can have the name, and the second parameter is actually the grade. So let's start that again. Joe, 8 years old. Sarah, 7 years old. Walter with the age of $100,000. So yeah, the teacher of the class first grade is the teacher actually, we need the teacher's name. So it has 2 students, so the len actually works. It just tells the length of any given collection. Student Joe, for this history, is a member of the class with the grade of none. But the Joe, oh yeah, Joe must be 17. Oh, my bad. Let's rerun it again. So I cleared my console. Joe, sorry Joe. For any Joe who watches this video, sorry if it bothers you. Walter, 45, 100,000. Yeah. The teacher of the class first grade is Walter. It has two students. Student Joe is a member of the class with the grade of 17. Student Sarah is a member of the class with the grade of none. So everything seems so far so good, and I kinda enjoy this kind of stuff, which everything goes whatever way that you might expect. So that was how the tuples work, and a bit more about how you can use, you know, classes out to each other. I told you that classes could be used as a data types at the beginning of this series. So this is one example of how could we just use another class as a data type. As you can see, name is a string, which is an atomic data type, but the teacher is the class, the class of teacher. So what is teacher? Teacher is actually a class, not a data type, but it can be used as a data type. So the classes kind of uses, they have a second application, which is you can use them as the data type. And all I wanted to show you guys in this video was how to use another class as a data type. What is tuples? How could we just couple a bunch of variables together, which is with the tuple, and a bit more with the fstring thingy, which I believe this is really handy. The fstring kind of helps you for generating any string and printing nice sentences. And another function that we have learned, I believe we haven't used it yet. So far I never had used this in this episode, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong. The len function. Len actually counts the elements of any collection. It could be a tuple, a list, a dictionary, whatever it is. If it is dictionary, it kind of counts the keys of the dictionary. So if you define a dictionary, which is a key is associated with with another list, it doesn't count the list, it just counts the key part. And that's it. So I used len to say how many students are in this collection of the students. So this collection kinda, it is a list. It says it returns a list. But inside the list, for any student, that list, the stu is actually a tuple. So for accessing the values of the tuple, I kind of used indexes like 0 and 1 for that tuple thingy. I believe the tuple is really an easy subject to understand. It doesn't need any high quality expertise or something like that, but it is really handy. Another application of the tuple is when you want to return two values from only one function. You call a function, you kind of expect to return something, but if you want to return two things in Python, you could just tuple them together and return the tuple. But in other languages, you have to create a data type and return that data type. So for any special returning, you could just in Python you can use tuple, but in other languages you might define a class. In some other languages like PHP, you can use the memory references, which is called by reference for functions. Those come with the advanced programming course, which if I record, I'm gonna teach you how to write C++, but right now I'm focusing on Python and elementary programming and how to put this stuff together to just see them work. this is not a very technical course. Actually, this is basics of a programming, how you could think like a programming sorry, how could you think like a programmer, and how programming tries to solve any problem. So that is kind of it. Here we are, and this episode kind of reached the end. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can just leave a like in this video if you don't mind. And the sponsor of this video is actually NASA. We don't have any sponsor here, but I got the new t-shirt with the NASA writing on it, so I just thought, why not? So take care, and never forget to practice. Any hard anything is achievable by practice, and there is no such thing as the hard task. There is only complicated task which made out of the simple tasks together. You can just put them together and make some more complicated things. So as always, take care. Goodbye.